Before you begin this day, pause. Right now, in this very moment, you are standing at the edge of possibility. Nothing has fully unfolded yet. Nothing is fixed. The story of today has not been written, and you are the one holding the pen. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their power. They check the world for instructions. They look for signs. They react to yesterday. But the few who understand the law of inner assumption do something radically different. They wake up and decide. They do not wait to see how the day will go. They choose how it goes. If you can understand this one truth, that your assumption upon waking is shaping everything that follows, your life will never be the same again. So as you listen to this, do not just hear the words. Feel them. Let them settle into you. Because the moment you wake up and assume victory, something begins to move behind the scenes. And when you understand how powerful this is, you will never wake up the same way again. Every single day of your life is shaped not by chance, not by luck, not by other people, but by what you quietly assume to be true. Long before events unfold, before conversations happen, before opportunities appear or disappear, there is a silent decision taking place within you. That decision is your assumption. And that assumption becomes the blueprint from which your outer world is formed. Most people move through life unaware of this. They believe reality is happening to them. They believe circumstances are fixed facts they must respond to. They wake up and immediately check their problems, their responsibilities, their limitations. In doing so, they unconsciously assume that struggle is natural, that delay is normal, that success must be earned through strain. And because assumption is creative, life faithfully reflects those beliefs back to them. But here is the truth: your assumption is not a reaction to reality. It is the cause of it. What you accept internally as true hardens into fact externally. If you assume you are overlooked, you will notice evidence of being ignored. If you assume money is difficult to obtain, you will experience obstacles around finances. If you assume relationships are complicated, they will reflect confusion back to you. The world is not punishing you. It is mirroring you. Assumption works whether you are aware of it or not. That is why it is powerful. The moment you understand this, you reclaim authorship over your experience. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What have I been assuming to be true?" That question alone shifts you from victim to creator. Assumption is deeper than words. It is deeper than surface affirmations. It is the feeling of certainty you carry. It is the inner posture you adopt. You may say, "Everything is working out for me." But if you internally expect disappointment, your true assumption is revealed by that expectation. Life does not respond to what you occasionally say. It responds to what you consistently accept as real. To change your reality, you do not fight circumstances. You do not wrestle with appearances. You change the assumption behind them. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a new inner decision. I am supported. Things are aligning for me. I succeed naturally, not as a desperate chant, but as a calm knowing. If you persist in that assumption, your perception begins to shift. You interpret events differently. You respond differently. You carry yourself differently. And because you have changed, your interactions change. Opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to appear. Conversations feel smoother. Timing feels more precise. Nothing outside forced that shift. Your assumption did. This is why two people can face similar circumstances and experience completely different outcomes. One assumes difficulty and sees obstacles everywhere. The other assumes possibility and sees openings. The external situation may look similar at first glance, but their internal acceptance determines the path forward. Assumption creates reality because it defines identity. And identity dictates behavior, perception, and expectation. When you assume you are confident, you speak with more certainty. When you assume you are valued, you no longer tolerate disrespect. When you assume you are successful, you move with quiet assurance instead of hesitation. and the world responds accordingly. It is not about forcing positivity. It is about selecting the version of yourself you are willing to be and remaining loyal to that version despite temporary appearances. If something contradicts your chosen assumption, you do not panic. You do not abandon your new identity. You understand that reality is catching up to your inner shift. Persistence is the bridge between assumption and visible fact. Every great transformation begins invisibly. First, there is a decision. Then there is a period where nothing seems different. And then suddenly, the external rearranges itself in a way that feels almost surprising. But it was never sudden. It was the natural outpicturing of a sustained assumption. You are assuming something right now about your life, about your future, about your capabilities. The only question is that assumption serving you? If assumption creates reality, then you are free to choose a better one. Assume that you are favored. Assume that doors open easily. Assume that what you desire desires you. Assume that setbacks are temporary adjustments, not final outcomes. Hold that inner position long enough, and you will watch your world reorganize itself to match it. Because reality does not begin outside of you. It begins in what you dare to assume. Most people believe victory is something that happens at the end. They think it is the result of effort, struggle, competition, or time. They imagine victory as a future event, a promotion received, a bank balance increased, a relationship restored, a goal finally achieved. And so they place it ahead of them, somewhere distant, somewhere uncertain. But victory is not an event waiting in the future. Victory is a state of consciousness you enter now. Before any outer success appears, there must first be an inner acceptance of it. Long before the world calls you successful, you must feel successful. Long before circumstances confirm your triumph, you must carry yourself as one who has already won. This is where most people lose their power. They wait for proof before they allow themselves to embody the state of victory. Yet the outer world does not create your state. Your state creates the outer world. If you only feel victorious after something happens, then you are living as a follower of circumstance. You are allowing conditions to dictate your identity. But when you choose to feel victorious before the evidence appears, you reverse the process. You become the cause rather than the effect. Victory is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not forceful. It is quiet certainty. It is calm expectation. It is the absence of desperation. The person who lives in the state of victory does not chase frantically. They do not beg for validation. They do not panic when something appears delayed. Why? Because their identity is not tied to temporary appearances. Their identity is rooted in an inner knowing that what they desire is already secured in consciousness. Think of it this way. If you knew beyond doubt that something was guaranteed to happen, how would you feel today? Would you worry? Would you strain? Would you overanalyze every detail? Of course not. You would move with ease. You would make decisions from confidence, not fear. You would sleep peacefully. You would speak differently. You would radiate assurance. That feeling, that calm confidence, is the state of victory, and it must come first. When you understand that victory is a state, you stop measuring your power by visible outcomes. You stop saying, "I'll feel good when this works out." Instead, you decide, "I feel victorious now, and because I do, this will work out." This shift changes everything. Your thoughts become less chaotic. Your emotions stabilize. You begin to interpret events through a lens of trust rather than doubt. Even challenges lose their ability to intimidate you because you no longer see them as threats. You see them as temporary rearrangements leading to a conclusion you have already accepted. Living in the state of victory does not mean ignoring reality. It means redefining it from within. It means understanding that circumstances are fluid and that your internal position determines their direction. When you occupy the state of defeat, you expect obstacles. You interpret neutral events negatively. You brace yourself for disappointment. And life mirrors that expectation back to you. But when you occupy the state of victory, you anticipate alignment. You interpret events as stepping stones. You assume that everything is unfolding in your favor. And because you assume it, you begin to see it. The outer world reflects your dominant state like a mirror reflects an image. If you stand before it defeated, it shows defeat. If you stand before it victorious, it must eventually reflect victory. The mirror does not argue, it simply responds. So the question becomes, what state are you choosing daily? It is easy to feel victorious when everything is working. The true power lies in feeling victorious when nothing visible has changed yet. That is mastery. That is creative authority. When you wake up in the morning, do not wait to see how the day treats you before deciding how you feel. Decide first. Enter the day with the inner declaration, I am already victorious. Carry that posture into meetings, into conversations, into quiet moments alone. Let it shape your tone of voice, your body language, your expectations. Over time, this state becomes natural. It no longer feels forced. It becomes your baseline identity. And once victory becomes your identity, outcomes begin to align effortlessly. Opportunities appear without struggle. Solutions arise without strain. Doors open in ways that feel almost synchronized. Not because you forced them, but because you became the person for whom victory is normal. Victory was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be assumed. It was meant to be embodied. It was meant to be lived from, not lived toward. The moment you stop treating victory as a distant reward and start treating it as your present state, you shift from hoping for success to expecting it. And what you consistently expect, you inevitably experience. Everything in your life flows from who you believe you are, not who you wish to be, not who others say you are, but who you quietly, consistently identify yourself as. Your identity is the lens through which you interpret the world, and that lens shapes every experience you have. Most people attempt to change their circumstances without changing their identity. They try to earn more money while still identifying as someone who struggles financially. They try to build confidence while secretly identifying as insecure. They try to attract love while still seeing themselves as unworthy. And then they wonder why their efforts feel heavy and inconsistent. It is because experience does not rise above identity. You will always act in harmony with who you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as overlooked, you will unconsciously behave in ways that reinforce being unnoticed. If you identify as unlucky, you will interpret neutral events as proof of misfortune. If you believe you are powerful, capable, and favored, your posture, tone, and decisions will naturally reflect that belief. Identity is not just a label. It is a state of consciousness. When you say, I am successful, but internally feel like someone trying to succeed, your true identity is still rooted in effort and striving. When you say, I am confident, but inside feel doubtful, your experience will continue to mirror doubt. The outer world always responds to the identity you embody, not the one you occasionally affirm. To transform your life, you must transform your self-concept. Ask yourself, who am I being? Not what are you doing? Not what are you trying to achieve? But who are you being in your inner world? Are you being the one who struggles? The one who waits? The one who fears? Or are you being the one who expects success, who assumes alignment, who trusts outcomes? Identity determines what feels natural to you, and what feels natural is what you consistently experience. For example, if you identify as someone who always has bad timing, you will notice delays and missed opportunities more than perfect timing. If you identify as someone who always figures things out, you will feel calm even in uncertainty, because your identity expects solutions. This is why two people can encounter the same obstacle and respond completely differently. One sees confirmation of limitation. The other sees a temporary step toward expansion. The difference is not the event. It is identity. Your identity influences your decisions in subtle ways. It shapes how long you persist, It determines how you interpret feedback. It affects how boldly you speak and how confidently you act. Over time, these small behaviors compound into vastly different outcomes. If you want a new experience, adopt a new identity. Not by pretending, not by forcing, but by deciding. Decide that you are the one who wins. Decide that you are the one who is chosen. Decide that you are the one for whom things align naturally. Sit with that decision until it begins to feel familiar. Let it inform your inner conversations. Let it influence your expectations. At first, your outer world may not immediately reflect this shift. That is normal. Identity changes internally before it manifests externally. There may be a brief period where your old circumstances attempt to pull you back into your former self-concept. Do not accept the invitation. Remain loyal to your new identity. When something appears to contradict it, ask yourself, how would the version of me who has already succeeded respond? Then respond from that place. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You begin to notice that you are calmer, more decisive, less reactive. You no longer chase validation because your identity already feels secure. You no longer overanalyze outcomes because your identity assumes alignment. Eventually, your outer experience must adjust. It has no choice. The world mirrors back the person you consistently present yourself as being. If you identify as powerful, you will be given situations that reveal your power. If you identify as capable, you will encounter opportunities that confirm your capability. If you identify as victorious, your life will organize itself around that assumption. You cannot consistently experience what contradicts your identity. It may appear temporarily, but it will not sustain itself if it does not match who you believe you are. So, choose wisely. Your identity is not fixed. It is selected. It is shaped by the story you repeat about yourself and the state you return to daily. You are free to redefine it at any moment. The moment you stop saying, I am trying to become successful, and start saying, I am successful, something shifts. You begin to think from success rather than toward it. You act from confidence rather than toward it. You expect alignment rather than hoping for it. And that expectation alters your experience. Identity determines experience, because identity determines perception, behavior, and persistence. Change the inner, I am, and the outer world rearranges to match it. You are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to decide who you are. There will be moments when nothing seems to be changing. Moments when the outer world looks exactly the same, when the evidence you hoped for has not yet appeared, when circumstances seem to contradict everything you have claimed internally. This is the precise point where most people abandon their power. They begin strong. They assume victory. They adopt a new identity. They enter the state of success. But the moment reality does not immediately confirm their shift, doubt whispers in. They look at appearances and conclude that nothing is working. Yet appearances are not the final authority. Appearances are echoes of past assumptions. What you are currently seeing is the outpicturing of yesterday's state, yesterday's identity, yesterday's expectations. If you change internally today, the external must adjust. But there is often a bridge of time between the shift within and the reflection without. This is where persistence becomes everything. To persist regardless of appearances means you refuse to let temporary evidence dictate your inner position. It means you understand that the outer world is rearranging itself, even if you cannot yet see the rearrangement. It means you remain loyal to your chosen state, even when circumstances attempt to tempt you back into your former thinking. If you plant a seed in the ground and dig it up every day to check its progress, it will never grow. Yet this is what many do with their assumptions. They claim success internally, then immediately search for proof. When proof is not visible, they uproot their belief and return to doubt. Creation does not respond to impatience. It responds to stability. When you truly understand that your inner state is the cause, you stop reacting to appearances. You no longer panic when something seems delayed. You no longer interpret silence as rejection. You no longer assume a temporary obstacle is permanent. Instead, you remind yourself this is old momentum playing out. Persistence is not forcing. It is remaining steady. Imagine deciding that you are already successful. You wake up each day in that state. You move with confidence. But then an unexpected bill arrives or a plan falls through. In that moment, you have two choices. You can react as your former self, anxious, doubtful, discouraged, or you can respond as the version of you who has already won. If you choose the second option, you are persisting. Persistence means you interpret every event through the lens of your chosen end. A delay becomes preparation. A rejection becomes redirection. A challenge becomes refinement. You do not deny what you see. You redefine what it means. This is where real transformation happens. Anyone can feel certain when everything is going well. Mastery is revealed when you remain certain while everything appears unchanged. That unwavering inner stability sends a powerful message. You are no longer moved by the outer world. The outer world must now move according to you. The moment you stop being shaken by appearances, appearances begin to shift. Why? Because you are no longer feeding them with fear or doubt. You are no longer reinforcing the old story. You are standing firm in a new identity, a new assumption, a new state. And reality must conform to the dominant state you persist in. There may be a period where nothing visible happens. This is not failure. It is transition. Old patterns are dissolving. New arrangements are forming. Movement is taking place beneath the surface. Trust the unseen process. Every outcome you admire in others required this stage. The stage where faith is internal and proof is absent. The difference between those who experience transformation and those who do not is simple persistence. When you persist, you are declaring that your inner decision is more real than temporary appearances. You are choosing to believe in the invisible, cause rather than the visible effect. You are refusing to let the past dictate your future. Over time, something remarkable occurs. What once felt like effort becomes natural. Remaining faithful to your assumption becomes easier than doubting it. Your inner state stabilizes. You no longer fluctuate with every external change. And then, quietly, reality begins to reflect your persistence. Opportunities arise unexpectedly. Circumstances shift in subtle but undeniable ways. What once felt blocked begins to flow, and you realize that the outer world was reorganizing itself all along. You simply had to remain steady long enough to allow it. Persist regardless of appearances, not because you are ignoring reality, but because you understand how it works. The visible world is the last to change, not the first. The inner shift precedes the outer confirmation. So when doubt tries to convince you that nothing is happening, remember, the seed grows underground before it breaks through the surface. Remain loyal to your chosen end. Remain faithful to your new identity. Remain steady in your assumption of victory. Appearances are temporary. Persistence makes them permanent. In your favor, there is a sacred window each day that most people overlook. It is quiet, subtle, powerful. It happens in the first few moments after you wake up. Before the world rushes in, before responsibilities begin speaking, before yesterday's memory fully settles back into your awareness. In that space, your mind is open, impressionable, and deeply creative. Morning is the creative gateway. The state you enter in those first minutes does not merely influence your mood. It sets the direction of your entire day. It is the moment when identity is reselected, when assumptions are renewed, when the story continues. And if you are not deliberate in that moment, you unconsciously fall back into yesterday's version of yourself. Most people wake up and immediately rehearse problems. They check their phones. They scan for stress. They remember unfinished tasks. In doing so, they reactivate the same state they carried the day before. And because state determines experience, they unknowingly recreate the same patterns again and again. But when you understand that morning is the creative gateway, you approach it differently. You do not wake up to react. You wake up to choose. In those first quiet moments, before you move your body too quickly, before you let external input shape you, there is an opportunity to claim your state. You can decide who you are going to be today. You can select victory. You can assume alignment. You can step into certainty before a single event unfolds. Why is morning so powerful? Because your conscious defenses are softer. Your imagination is more accessible. Your emotions are not yet tangled in the day's interactions. You are closer to the deeper part of yourself, the creative core that shapes your perception and expectation. If you claim your desired state there, it carries forward like momentum. Imagine waking up and instead of remembering yesterday's frustration, you quietly feel what it would be like if today was already successful. Before you even open your eyes fully, you sense ease. You sense completion. You sense that something good is unfolding. You let that feeling saturate you for just a minute or two. That single act begins to program your entire day. You move differently when you rise from that state. You speak differently. You expect differently. You notice opportunities instead of obstacles. Conversations align more naturally because your tone carries confidence rather than tension. Morning is not just the start of a schedule. It is the planting of a seed. The thoughts and feelings you impress upon yourself in that window take root quickly. And whatever you plant there grows throughout the day. If you plant anxiety, you will harvest stress. If you plant certainty, you will harvest alignment. This is why discipline in the morning is more valuable than force during the day. If you establish the right state early, you do not need to fight circumstances later. Your inner direction is already set. Many people try to fix their mood after something goes wrong, but correction is harder than prevention. When you consciously choose your state upon waking, you prevent unnecessary struggle. You guide your experience from the beginning rather than repairing it later. Morning is the gateway because it is the point of least resistance. It is easier to enter a new identity before the old one has fully awakened. It is easier to assume victory before doubt begins speaking. It is easier to feel confident before the world presents its opinions. If you wait until midday to shift your state, you are working against accumulated impressions. But in the morning, you are working with a clean slate. This does not require hours of ritual. It requires intention. Even 5 minutes of deliberate assumption can transform the trajectory of your day. Lie still. Feel successful. Feel supported. Feel victorious. Let your body relax into that reality before you move. Over time, this becomes your new normal. You will notice that days flow more smoothly. You will find yourself less reactive. Even when something unexpected occurs, you will handle it with composure because your foundation was set early. Eventually, morning becomes your favorite part of the day, not because it is quiet, but because it is powerful. It is the moment you remember that you are not here to react to life. You are here to shape it. Do not rush through the gateway. Do not surrender it to distraction. Guard it. Use it. Honor it. The first thoughts of the day are creative instructions. The first feelings are blueprints. The first identity you accept becomes the character you play for the next several hours. Wake up gently. Wake up deliberately. Wake up and choose who you are, because morning is not just the beginning of another day. It is the doorway through which your reality is formed again and again. Victory was never outside of you. It was never hiding in circumstances, never locked inside someone else's approval, never waiting for the perfect moment. It has always been a state you step into. And the most powerful time to step into it is the moment you wake up. When you assume victory before proof appears, you move differently, you think differently, you expect differently. And life reflects that shift back to you in ways that feel almost unbelievable. But it is not magic. It is alignment. The outer world reshapes itself around the inner decision you consistently hold. So do not underestimate the quiet power of your mornings. Do not dismiss the simple act of claiming success before you see it. That single shift can change everything. Wake up tomorrow and refuse to consult yesterday. Wake up and refuse to rehearse defeat. Wake up and assume you are already victorious. Then watch how life begins to confirm what you dared to believe. If this message spoke to you, carry it with you into tomorrow morning. Let it be the first voice you hear, not the voice of doubt, not the echo of yesterday, but the voice of certainty within you. If this resonated deeply, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember their power. Your support helps this message reach those who are ready to step into victory. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing higher assumptions. And most of all, thank you for choosing to wake up differently. Your victory is already unfolding.